So I've been thinking a lot about kits in The Sims recently, and listen, I am not the biggest fan of kits. I worry that we're going down some sort of like Sims 3 store route. I would way rather have things like stuff packs or game packs that are a little bit more meaty. It stresses me out how expensive they are and like how often they're being released. But I think it's pretty clear that like kits are happening. They're here to stay, we're getting them, and there is part of me that really likes them. Like it's kind of fun to get more content. And there are a few kits that I've really enjoyed. Obviously not all of the kits are going to appeal to all of us, but since I've been thinking so much about kits recently, I made an entire presentation of kits that I'd like to see in The Sims 4, pictures included. So let's get started. This first slide here says Simsie's kit ideas. I do not support kits, but I accept them, and this is what I want to see. Basically, we're gonna get kits whether we want them or not, so you know what? If you're gonna give them to me, here's some more options. Generally, I'd like to see more gameplay kits. We only got one and it was Bust the Dust. I think there's a lot of room for interesting things here. Possibly careers coming in kits, maybe some weird random like simmy items, things like the cupcake machine. Obviously that's base game, but like if there was some other like weird random like big odd Sims thing, if we could get that into a kit, it might be kind of fun. I really liked how Bust the Dust came with aspirations, and I'd love to see future gameplay kits have more aspirations, more traits, more likes and dislikes, just more things to build out my Sims personality. I feel like kits are also a good option to bring back like some classic older Sims items. The first thing that comes to mind is that heart bed from the original Sims games, but even like maybe some of the older Sims 3 store items like the toddler walker, the pizza oven, stuff like that. And I'd also like to see some more item dump type kits. Like right now, most of the build kits and even the CAS ones are very focused around like a single theme. Like here's a country kitchen kit with a bunch of country kitchen stuff. But I'd love to see, instead of like a mid-century bedroom, give me just like beds. I want a bed kit. 10 beds. I would be totally down for that. I do want to talk a little bit more about gameplay kits though. I put this photo of James Turner's thumbnail from his Bust the Dust video because I felt like it was appropriate. Underneath my face, he's sort of making a bit of a stressed face because, you know, Bust the Dust has that effect on people. It was kind of broken. It was trying to do too much with like affecting too much gameplay. It was kind of weird because the first and only gameplay kit was about vacuums. And I kind of worry that Bust the Dust might have like busted our chances with gameplay kits, which I hope it didn't because I think there's a lot of potential for other sorts of gameplay kits. I'm gonna show you a couple concepts, a lot revolving around kitchens and like kitchen appliances that I've thought up, but also maybe a kit focused around a career. And I don't even think it needs to be like an active career. Like I don't need to go to work like the paranormal stuff pack one. It could be kind of semi-active, like the ones from City Living where you had to like be a social media star. So you could go to work, but you could also like work from home and then, you know, post tweets or whatever and then get paid. When it comes to careers, I kind of care more about like the label than I care about the actual gameplay involved. Like I just want to say my Sim's an astronaut. I don't need to actually go be an astronaut, but if I can just say they are one, I'm good. And I think kits are a good way to incorporate some more career options like that. Okay, I present to you my first kit concept, the deep fryer kit. I think this is kind of similar in scope to what the Bust the Dust kit was like. Obviously, it's hard to say like how much they could actually include in a gameplay kit because we only have one to compare it to, but I think this one could fit. I've got a picture here of the Sims 3 deep fryer. This was a store content item, so it was kind of like the kits of the Sims 3. And I'm kind of picturing it being similar to Bust the Dust, where you get like 2 to 3 different variants of a deep fryer appliance. There's like a more modern one, a more traditional one, maybe like an air fryer version. They all essentially work the same way, they just look a little bit different. There could be like a small sort of related aspiration or trait, some sort of like loves fried food thing, wants to try a bunch of options, you know. You could use the cooking skill to unlock new recipes, and it's a good option to like add a bunch of new different types of food, but they could also probably tie in some older ones. Like we already have French fries, so if I could just make those in the deep fryer, that'd be great. But like the obvious things like donuts and onion rings and corn dogs, French fries, sweet potato fries, like, you know, all the basics. Maybe some kind of fun ones like fried ice cream or like fried Oreos. I guess I couldn't really call it an Oreo, but you know. I think it's a cool idea. This is kind of how I'm picturing it looking. This is obviously the Sims 3 one. Ignore the poor quality photo. But it would just be like a little simple counter appliance. The texture in that is not, you know, the best. It's just supposed to be oil. But essentially you just, you know, have your Sim lift up and put down the basket. This is a real deep fryer. I'll move my face so you can see. Again, it's the same thing. It's like the machine that heats up the oil and then a basket you can pick up and put down with the stuff in it. I'm like constantly longing for more kitchen appliances in The Sims, and it's always fun to have new recipes. Like, I think there's a lot of potential here. Another one I thought up was the pizza oven kit, and this is also based on a thing from The Sims 3, another Sims 3 store item. We had this pizza oven in the Sims 3 store. Back in the Sims 3, it looked like this. It was like a big pizza oven that you could only put outside, but it was really cool. You could make all kinds of breads, all kinds of different pizzas. Like, there was so many things your Sims could cook in it. It gave you like a million more recipes. I'm thinking in The Sims 4, we could have like an outdoor one kind of similar to that, but also these are like the more common like countertop ones that you see. I guess you mostly use these outside too, and some of them are a bit pricey. Look at that, what the heck? But it could be something similar to this, like basically like a big toaster oven almost, or like this one, and your Sims could just cook bread and pizzas in it. We already have pizza, so like there's kind of unlimited options with new kinds of pizzas they could make. Like, we currently don't have that many different pizza toppings. I think we have like cheese and I think we have like 5 different pizzas you can order, but they could add like a bajillion more different kinds of pizzas, different kinds of breads, like baguettes, and you could make bagels or something, I don't know. But they could also tie this into like the pizza delivery system, how you can order pizzas on the phone. We could have like way more options from there if there's like all these new recipes in the game. In The Sims 3, they had these like fancy dough spinning animations. I know animations are like really costly, so I don't really see them doing that, but like the putting the pizza in and taking it out animation, I feel like we could manage. So I don't think this one is like that far-fetched either. There's actually a bunch of other kitchen appliances I'd like to see, but I can't really picture how these would fill up an entire kit. But things like toasters, so we can have our Sims make toast and bagels, they can make Pop-Tarts. I don't know about you, but like a toaster is kind of, in my mind, like one of the most standard kitchen appliances. I've always had a toaster. I eat toast and bagels a lot for breakfast. It's weird that my Sims don't have one. At this point, I don't even care if it works. I just want to like have one to put on my counter. Maybe a blender. We can make smoothies. We can make milkshakes. Things like kettles. Super common like electric kettle kitchen appliance. We don't really have that. We have coffee makers and we have a tea maker, but they're kind of ugly. If you could just give me a cute little simple electric kettle, that would be great. Also, stand mixers. I don't know how that would work in The Sims. I don't really see a need for it in The Sims either, because your Sims just mix things by hand when they're baking and that's fine. I feel like it's not worth the effort to make a functional one, but they're so pretty. Like, think about how cute that would look on my Sims kitchen counter, and you just know it would have like the best swatches in The Sims. There'd be like such cute pastels. I want a KitchenAid mixer for my Sims house. So like maybe that would all be like one kit. I don't know. I'm not super tied to these. I feel more attached to the deep fryer one, to be honest, but this is a concept. Other idea is a telescope kit. And this is kind of playing on like filling that void. Because right now, this is the telescope in The Sims 4. You probably recognize it. It is enormous. Your Sim walks in that door. They can literally woohoo in this thing. And I think they did this as like a time and cost save on the animations of having a telescope like this one. I think that's why like the microscope is huge like that. The cupcake machine is huge like that. Or possibly they're just going for a really weird vibe early on in The Sims 4. But this was the telescope in The Sims 3. A regular, as you would expect, backyard kind of telescope. So maybe we could get like a few more variants kind of similar to this of a telescope in a kit, maybe like 2 different ones. It would have sort of similar interactions to the observatory, like you could look at the sky and at your neighbors, you know. You probably couldn't woohoo in that one though. I don't really see how that would work. There could be like a new sort of obsessed with space aspiration, and it could tie in a lot of base game stuff like the rocket ship really easily. Maybe some sort of like obsessed with space trait. There could be like some silly moodlets about how like, oh, I shouldn't have seen that. I had this weird concept where like your neighbor could get mad at you for using the telescope. Like you get like an angry call from someone who lives in your neighborhood and they're like, buddy, what are you doing? And you like lose relationship with them. I don't know. That might be far-fetched, but I do think that kits are a good option to like add more variants of things like this and then tie in gameplay with things like traits, aspirations, careers, stuff like that. As far as CAS kits go, I'm probably not the best person to discuss concepts for these because I am not a CAS simmer. Like I'm not good at Create a Sim. I don't really care about Create a Sim kits, to be honest. I think that if I weren't a YouTuber, I wouldn't buy any of the CAS kits. I like them a lot. Like I loved this one. It was so good. But also I think that if I didn't make YouTube videos on them and I was just like a regular Sims player, this wouldn't be a thing that I would buy probably because I think it would be too much money for me to justify it. And you might feel the opposite. That's totally fine. But for me, like it's not my thing. I do think that item dumps might work well here, just like with build mode. A concept I had was a makeup kit. So instead of like the throwback fit kit kit that had like a load of clothing of a certain style. We do like a load of makeup, but in lots of different styles. Lots of new eyeshadows, new eyeliners, new lipsticks, highlighter, we don't really have that. Some fancier types, some more basic types. Ideally, the makeup would not look weird on masculine frames, because right now most of it does. Maybe like some makeup intentionally made for masculine frame Sims. I don't know. I think it'd be kind of cool. I do worry about it going a little bit too far in that MAC makeup direction, but I think there's potential here. And also possibly kits like themed around different life states. I'm just dying for more clothes for toddlers and children, first of all. But it could be nice to get like some more toddler clothing, some more kid clothing, maybe like a teen, like kind of trendy kit, a grandma pack. Speaking of which, I have a concept for it. I present to you Granny Chic. Now, I've kind of gone in a few different directions with my photos, so hear me out, okay? This is like the cool grandma kit. It would have like large, chunky, colorful jewelry and glasses, kind of like this lady has on. Oversized glasses, kind of colorful patterned clothing, lots of cardigans, sweaters, longer dresses, a lot of layering, like this lady has a sort of brightly colored blouse and a coat on it, maybe a scarf on top of that, like, you know, things like that. Lots of more modest type clothing. And I say that because a lot of the clothes we've been getting recently seem very targeted at young adults and adults and teens. Lots of like crop tops and high-waisted things, like everything's cropped in The Sims 4 right now. And that's fun, crop tops are trendy, but like even I don't really like wearing crop tops because I'm self-conscious. So I'd like to see some things targeted towards like the elderly who might not want to wear a crop top. Even things like this dress, this is like the most classic old lady dress, and I mean that in the nicest way possible. I'd love to see like some formal clothes, some casual things. I love the vibes of these two pictures. I've seen a lot of pictures of glasses with like fun chains on them, so I just like took a screenshot of my Google search basically, but I think this kind of thing might be really cool with like the pearls and stuff. Lots of like chunky big jewelry, kind of like these. This was just another photo of layering, to be honest, like with the cute collared shirt and the coat. I just like the vibes. I don't know who she is. She could be anybody, but I liked her outfit. Anyway, that was my CAS kit concept. I don't have any more. I don't know what I want, to be honest with you. Build kits though. This is my area of expertise. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, I kind of like the idea of sort of general item dumps instead of like the themed rooms that we've been getting recently. Because a lot of the kits are like, hey, here's the industrial loft kit. So you can very specifically build an industrial loft. But things like beds and couches kind of define the entire room. Like these big furniture pieces kind of base all your options for the rest of the room. So I just want more of them. Like I would love a kit that only is beds, only is couches, only is toilets. And I did make a concept for this later on, I'll show you. I was kidding about toilets, by the way. I'd please, I will not spend $5 for only toilets. Could you imagine? But I think that build kits are, again, also an option to bring back some classic old Sim stuff like that heart bed I mentioned. And it's also a cool place to like collab with furniture companies, possibly. I know we did like one CAS kit that was a collab with like a smaller fashion brand, but honestly, like an IKEA build collab again. They had it in The Sims 2. It was great. That could be fun. Or even like more trendy, expensive brands like West Elm. I don't know if they could get West Elm or if I even want West Elm, but they have cute stuff. So like that could be a fun collab. I don't know. It's just an idea. This is that concept I was talking about for the bed kit. These are just some random photos. I'm not like attached to any of these, but it could be cool to like have the classic old bed, some kind of basic like 4-poster simple bed. This kind of thing with like the woven back is very trendy right now. A simple like metal frame with some cute simple colors, maybe like a boulder pattern with some like cutesy little strawberries or peaches or something. This is a good chance to just get a bunch of cool stuff, like half basics, half fun stuff. Give me a load more options to work with, you know? My other concept is also basics related. This is an entire kit. So hear me out. The Back to Basics kit. Kind of like the vibes of this room. It's a lot of like neutral swatches, like whites and grays, beige, muted colors, nothing too bright. No bold patterns. The Sims has a real problem with patterns that are too bold. And like a focus on rugs and curtains and wallpapers, maybe like pendant lights, basic things that you could include in like every build if you wanted to. We could have a few new like decent sized big rugs that fit like under a 6-seater dining table that might size up and down well. Instead of like getting giant when you size it up, it gets a little bit bigger when you size it up. Curtains, like better, nice, neutral curtains that fit on all windows. Kind of similar to these, honestly, like simple panels, maybe a sheer one and a solid one, something for all 3 wall heights, short, medium, and tall. Just lots of shades like beige and gray, maybe some like sage greens, muted curtains, no bright colors, no wacky patterns, simple fabric curtains. That's what I desire. Honestly, artwork kind of similar to the art in this room. Things like line art, things like the tiny living leaf paintings. It's just like a painting of a leaf, so you can put it in a lot of different rooms. I was thinking artwork kind of like this, like really simple line art that you could put that anywhere. Stuff like this too that has some color, but like some muted ones. Lots of just shapes and lines. Easy to use in a lot of different styles of build. With these, I just like searched neutral rugs and then I saw these two pictures and I was like, that's kind of the vibe. Lots of like natural tones. There's some pattern, but it's simple patterns, nothing too bold. The colors, again, are very muted. You could fit this in a lot of different styles and you can mix and match a lot of the more bold things that we already have with them. That's what I'm looking for. Just neutral, nice, big rugs that could fit in a lot of spaces. As for wallpaper, kind of same thing. I want to have like 30 swatches of like 4 different wallpapers. Again, lots of grays and greens, not bright greens, muted greens. 5 shades of white, you know, cream, like things like that is what I want to see. So for example, like with this wallpaper, this would be like a really simple beadboard. It's all white beadboard, all the swatches are white, but then the top of the wall changes color to like lots of different neutrals. With this one, I'd like to see a white top of the wall, but this paneling could change colors. Maybe like a deep green color, lots of grays, and it's like a taller paneling, kind of like that. This one kind of similar where like the wall's white, but the paneling changes color, it's painted. And then like some basic walls like this one, but I want to see it with and without crown molding. Something about The Sims 4, there's not a lot of walls that like only have baseboards for some reason. They either like have molding or they have no molding. There's not a lot that like only have the baseboard at the bottom. And I feel like that's kind of rare in real life. Like, don't houses usually have like some kind of board? Like, there's not fancy baseboards in here. They're like that tall, but there's like a little piece of white between the carpet and the wall. So I want to see like both variants of that. I'm looking for some nice, pretty, but simple wallpapers like this. And again, it's all stuff that will fit in like every house. It's super easy to mix and match with things that we already have. That's what I'm looking for. But that is the end of my presentation. Those are my concepts. I was trying to be realistic, and I do think these are all things that are doable. You also might not agree with me at all about any of these, and that's totally fine. I don't mind. I get it. These are all very personal preference. I think that's kind of the whole point of kits too, where like they don't have to appeal to everybody. They can do like more specific things. Although I guess the build kits that I'm looking for are not specific. I'm looking for very like generic beds, you know, and like a toaster for some reason. I am curious though, in the comments, let me know, what do you want to see with kits? Obviously, I think the answer for a lot of us is just no, I don't want to see kits. But are there any kits that like you would like to see? Specifically, I'm kind of curious about the career thing, because I couldn't really think of any career ideas, but I do like the concept of kits that have careers. What kind of careers do you think they could add in a kit? I'm interested. Tell me in the comments. And if you like this kind of like talky Sims video, I do this kind of thing sometimes. My last one was a 2022 wish list for The Sims, so I'll link that at the end of the video for you. And feel free to subscribe if you want to just hear me ramble about Sims, because I do that a lot. And with that being said, I'll catch you all tomorrow. Bye, everybody. I'm not kidding though, I think about that pizza oven and deep fryer at least once a day, every day, and I have for months. I really, 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 really want them. I think it would be so fun.